All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another Art Talk. So today I wanted to address some questions that I got from an art student, and I thought they were really great questions. And it's for this reason that I wanted to just share the answers with you to help you if you might have these same sort of questions. And I think they're great questions because they're very common. So this artist right now is what they say right now, the kind of art that I'm working on is character design. I'm interested in pursuing a career in the video game industry. I've been inspired by your art and I thought about some questions I would like to ask if you don't mind. So the question number one was, how did you deal with your own negativity or perfectionism towards your work? And that's a great question. For myself, it's one of those things where I realize now as a 50-year-old dude that it's all about just surrendering and acceptance of it. I know that I felt that way. I felt that I was negative about my artwork, but what it was for me was a way just to keep getting better. I realized that I wasn't as good as I should be because I was comparing myself to others. And I always love the saying by this philosopher named Wallace Wattles who says, "Don't be competitive, be creative." And that really snapped me too. That many years ago, that changed me and go, yeah, I'm not going to be competitive. I just got to be creative. I just got to keep working on these things. So that own negativity and perfectionism was something that I was going to have to overcome, and you do overcome in time. I really feel that you do. You start to just let go of that and it just gets easier. Right now, you may feel like, oh my God, this isn't perfect. This isn't right. I'm not feeling good. That person's so much better than me. But as long as you keep moving closer and practicing what you need to do to move towards your goal, that's all you can do. There is no magic formula. There's no magic potion. There's nothing else that can be done. So something very important to keep in mind. The next question was, what is it like to work with contracts? I think it's very important to work with contracts, and they can give you a sense of just security, although oftentimes, I don't want to say oftentimes, contracts can be broken. But you don't want to move into a job with anyone that you don't have some sort of written contract with. It could be that agreement that you've written just through email together, through that email chain. I think it's important just to even you can pull something off the internet, just a blank sample contract, something very simple. Doesn't have to be so great. Otherwise, the best thing to do if you're working with a company that's bigger than you are is to have them send you the contract. And contracts can be changed. You can adjust things. If they say we're going to pay you in 90 days, you can cross it out and you can put, I want to be paid in 30 days. Otherwise, they say we're not paying you till after you turn in your artwork. You can cross it out and say, I need to receive 50% or a third up front before you even send them anything, which is something I highly advise you to do. And also just keep in mind, most studios, a lot of the studios right now, especially on the television side and some gaming, they don't even have a contract. This is their way of just, they can do what they want, so to speak. Hey, if you want the job, take the job. But again, it's so important just to negotiate the deal before you start working. Make sure that all the details are written out. But don't be afraid of contracts. It's something that's very important and makes you even more of a professional by having a contract. The next question was, how do you come up with your designs? Well, you come up with your designs a lot of the times by them being given to you. That's one of the best things about being a commercial artist, as opposed to, say, if I was just an artist that was doing more fine art sort of work where I'm just trying to come up with my own ideas, my own vision. What am I trying to say? What am I trying to do? But when you're a designer and you're working for a company, they're going to dictate that. They're going to tell you what it is through a script, what it is, and not always a script. You might just have a little description. We need you to design a bunch of steampunk crocodiles, and now it's up to you to do that. But this is where all your experience, and the first thing to do is start gathering reference, and the most important thing to do, like I teach all the time in the Silver Drawing Academy, is just to throw up on the page and just start drawing. You just start putting stuff out there. You start playing around with your shape language. You start to define what sort of the needs are of the client. Do they want something that's more retro? Do they want something that's more grunge? Do they want something that's more simple, more detailed? So the more you ask your client, whoever you're working with, what it is that their needs are, and usually they'll dictate that to you in the beginning, that's how you start to go through with your designs, and it all starts with the research. You got to just spend that time to research, and it's also something that you're charging for, that this is your time. If you spend an hour digging through research, that's an hour of your time that is billable to the client, so something else to keep in mind. All right. Did you have any issues working on contracts? No, I don't really have any issues working on contracts. Not to say people won't have issues working on contracts. Again, it's something that you need to be really confident. You need to be able to be that sort of person that can tell people what it is that you want and be open about it, and don't try to just bury it or not talk about it and hope things will change. I will say one thing that just popped into my mind as I'm talking right now, that I did have a problem with a contract one time. Was I was working with a company in Australia. They asked me to do some work, so we negotiated a deal to do a front 3/4 view of a character design, and I charged them my rate. And then they said, this is great, we love it, now we want you to do the turns and some expressions. And I said, okay, great, that's going to be this much. And they said, wait a minute, you already told us how much this was. So because I didn't write in the contract or specifically mention that the turnarounds were a different price, the expressions were going to be a different price, they assumed that the price I was charging was for everything. So that's something, a big mistake that I made, to where now I know, make sure that you write everything down, that I'm charging you this is for this part of the design, for the front 3/4 view development of this. So I might be doing maybe about 10 different sketches and ideas, and that's just for that. And then if you want me to clean them up, well, that's another price. And if you want me to do a turnaround, that's another price. So these are just very important things just to consider and think about, okay? What is it like to work in groups of other creative people? To me, I think that's the most rewarding experience about working collaboratively in the animation industry and getting used to that. I think you're always going to have to be working with other people, especially if they're paying you. If you're not doing it just for yourself, working on your own comics, your own prints, your own whatever it is that you're doing, it's a different scenario. But when you get to work with a team of other people and creative people, you get insight, you start to get inspired, you get motivated. It's something that I'm doing with my upcoming workshops now, is to make it a collaborative environment, to have artists work with the other artists and not just sit there by themselves and draw. And that's very important. It's something that we do in the Silver Drawing Academy every week. We meet on Wednesdays and we all draw together collaboratively in a group. And you get to see what I'm doing, but it spurs ideas and generates ideas, and that's what makes it just a better thing, especially when you're learning and trying to get better, and to have that access to other people, and observation plays a huge role in that, okay? Should schools integrate art into the curriculum? Just in general, I think so. I think every school should. I know some schools do, more private schools do, but it's something that's absolutely missing. I just even know in certain art schools, they don't even have figure drawing classes, which is unbelievable to me. Like, they're cutting certain programs like that, which makes absolutely no sense. But having art mixed in with just academic is the best thing. I wish I had more of it when I was growing up. I didn't. I suffered tremendously as an academic student. I couldn't do it. I was drawing all the time. And to have art classes would have been extremely beneficial for me as an individual, as an artist, okay? Do you think art is devalued by society? If so, why? I think it is. It can be. I mean, there's certain things where society may go to a museum and they see all these, they go and they pay money to look at all these paintings and they find value in that. But in general, they look at artists, unfortunately, as a dime a dozen, and they hear about the starving artists and Van Gogh and all this, and they have this idea and concept of what artists are sometimes, or artists are flakes and artists are just a bunch of hippies roaming around. So there's a devaluation. And so the most important thing you could do is always just keep acting as a professional. Tell people what you want, show up, you know, and if you're going for an interview or meeting people through Zoom or anything else, just make sure that you're presentable and that you don't look like you just woke up out of bed. And that's something that's going to be very important, so you don't give people that stigma for them to believe that, oh, you're just another flaky, hippie sort of artist, that you're a professional, that you present people with contracts, that you know what it is that you want. And these sort of things are going to be extremely beneficial for you and your career, because then people know they can rely on you and trust you. But absolutely, there's a devaluation that, again, people sometimes think you just like to do this for fun. It's not worth anything because this is what you do for fun. But we know that that's not the truth. And just present yourself in that professional manner, and you'll start to be given that respect in return. Since I'm a big fan of your work, thank you for taking the time to read this and these questions. Okay, so that was it. So anyway, I hope this helped you, just gave you a little bit of insight into some different areas that you may not have thought to ask those questions, and hope that it was helpful for you. So thanks again for watching, and make it a great day. Take care. Are you looking to advance your character design skills? Visit silverdrawingacademy.com.